Another NFL week is in the books with a carousel at quarterback. No new NFL games get moved around. Derrick Henry has another monster game. All that and more in 20 seconds. Hello, fellow fanatics. Welcome to the Average Bros Fantasy Show, sponsored by Football Darts and Fantasy Sports Alliance. First, we would like to thank our broadcast sponsors, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple-target dartboard. Unlike traditional British darts, American football darts is a game that combines both the skill of darts and the strategies of football. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, and as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your own home. If you'd like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com. Also, now find them at Target and on wayfair.com as well. And remember, if you like this show, please like, share, subscribe to all of our social medias, which you can find on the bottom there of the screen, as well as check out our new site, fsa-fr.com. If you have not gone over there yet, please do. You can find a whole ton of news, everything from our broadcast links, the flagship show, the Fanatically Real broadcast, as well as welcoming back on, again, as you guys may know, the Empty Wagon guys are with us officially. Find that, all the news on our sponsors as well. Just a lot of great information there altogether. Josh, welcome back, bud.
I'm glad to be back. Another week of me getting battered, getting bullied and battered on the nonsense that I throw out.
It serves you right for throwing nonsense out there.
Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to take a bullet here, and I'll be the one to do it.
Better you than me. You are the average one.
That's what
How'd you do this week as far as your teams go?
So far, I went 2-1 this week, and actually looking on the brighter side this week. So hopefully I can come back, possibly go 3-0, but I'm realistic here. So how'd you do?
Not so well. I dropped out of the top 25, unfortunately. But I entered the upper echelon as far as teams go in Dynasty, so I'm happy about that. But speaking of winning and starting out a Dynasty, who do you got as your week's winners this week?
All right. My first winner is going to be, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, I had Derrick Henry with 43.4 points, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also had 2 receptions for 52 yards as well.
Yeah, just another absolute monster game. He absolutely throws Josh Norman through the ground last week, gets him airborne, and then this week comes out with the same type of performance and picking up really right where they left off last year as far as having a steady ground game. I hope we don't see shades of God, why am I blanking on his name? Went to the Falcons.
Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley. You got to keep those knees healthy. For me, I'm going to actually start on the other side of things. The biggest loser doesn't happen to be one of the lowest scorers this week. I guess you could say chance of magic happening over in Miami. You get Ryan Fitzpatrick named not the starter once they come out of their bye, as the Dolphins will be switching to Tua after still putting up 20.54 points within the MFL or FSA scoring system here. But just to be benched after having not a awful game, I believe it's actually his second highest scoring outing yet this season. Did throw 2 interceptions, but to lose your job in that type of performance with a shot to win the division, as long as Buffalo either starts to continues to skid or starts to average out compared to the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's actually really weird to see that he got benched because I know before he got benched, they were up 21-0. They finished 24-0, so not like Tua did much in the time that he had. And yeah, they're actually right on the heels of Buffalo with them being 3-3, Buffalo being 4-2. Just getting their 2 losses within the past week.
Right.
So it's not completely out of the equation that Miami could take the division this year, which is
And
really weird to say.
it hurts me to hear. Trust me. And what's funny is we talk about one guy getting benched, after having a okay performance. My winner of this week, Matt Ryan, just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, there were talks of him getting benched and moving on from the Falcon side of things. Having a stellar outing this week, having put up 37.64 points in what is their first victory, correct?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Julio coming back and proving everybody why that you draft him in the first 2 rounds within the fantasy realm, and making it known that he should be an every week starter, regardless of those off chances that he may have. And then Matt Ryan possibly cementing his name as a must start, especially when we're talking about a super flex league where you have the option to start the 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, and speaking of Matt Ryan, my second winner is actually going to be the receiver that you just talked about. It's going to be Julio Jones. 8 receptions, over 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Um, I mean, he's like back and forth. I know he had the injury he was dealing with, here and there. I believe it was a hamstring injury. But all in all, he's been a pretty solid choice to have in the starting lineup throughout the weeks. And like you said, with Matt Ryan throwing to him, it's it's crazy to see that they're 1-5 right now.
I mean, a lot of tough games. Obviously, a lot of tough losses as far as being on the opposite end of come from behind wins, giving up big leads. So I don't put anything really on that offense as far as how their record shows, and more so on the defense. You can only do so much when it comes to getting the win week in week out. Uh, but just the same, as far as my next winner for the week is a odd quarterback pairing with him is Justin Jefferson, putting up 38.1 points, having another phenomenal week on the heels of a bad start from Kirk Cousins, which looked to be almost disastrous through that first half. So glad to see a rookie out of this class starting to shine. Definitely in the runnings for rookie of the year is Jefferson. So definitely interesting to see how that pans out from here on out.
Yeah, as of right now, I see rookie of the year going between him and maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because they're both in the top 5 for receiving yards and rushing yards.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to really decide what each one does for their team, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as if they're that close stat wise in a perspective positions, I think that what Jefferson brings, being a true number one for the Vikings, brings to that offense versus um, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what he does for Kansas City. They have so many other options where I don't think not having him hurts that team as much as not having Jefferson in what the Vikings does.
I mean, with this past week, I think he had over 100 rushing yards this past week, something like that. But with the performance he's been having, I think even he's stepping up as to be the number one. I mean, they just signed Le'Veon Bell. So, I mean, from here on out, who knows who's going to be the number one there. But yeah, you're right. They just have so many options compared to, you know, the Vikings only having what, Jefferson and Thielen?
Yeah, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you got up next there?
Give me 1 second here. All right, so what do you want? My last winner, or you want me to go into the losers?
Go, give me one of your losers.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the man that I was hoping to secure a win this week, but completely just tanked it. They had a good start at the beginning. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers, only 0.3 points, not even one whole point. 2 interceptions. I mean, yeah, Tampa Bay has a decent defense, but like nothing that should have stopped him. And like I said before, they had the strong, what was it, maybe first quarter. They put up 10 points and then just got completely shut out from there.
Yeah, I mean, and that was Rodgers coming off of what people started to presume to be the breakout season. These past couple of seasons, he's had a lot of injuries himself, a lot of injuries within the team. I mean, same thing, this year going in, injuries within that offense. But this was supposed to be that breakout season, and it seems to be he's still stuck in that second tier as far as not only in the fantasy realm, but overall as the Packers look to be falling short compared to these top tier guys. Obviously, Brady in the high power offense, even with missing pieces, proves to be.
Speaking of Brady and them, I know he's not one of my winners. I don't know if he's one of your winners, but what do you think about Ronald Jones in the game that he had?
I I mean he had a fantastic game, but it's one of those things where you know to me he's a flex look every single week because you never know who on that offense is gonna A blow up or B if you do get a healthy Fournette back, where that comes. And then you do have Keyshawn Vaughn there, which he's had ball control issues and really getting the game plan down, so they haven't trusted him too much to give him a true role. But there's all kinds of different moving pieces within that team that I still can't back him 100% to say that although on a back of a good performance, he deserves to be your RB1. I still think he's a flex option.
Yeah, he's a flex option. I honestly, it's it's tricky to say if he's gonna do it again next week because, like you said, Fournette could possibly come back. Keyshawn Vaughn could out of nowhere blow up and have a decent game, and it's just that's what makes him such a flex option compared to guys like Derrick Henry or like Christian McCaffrey if they're healthy, is because they're true number ones. You know that they're going to get the workload week in and week out.
And not only that, you don't necessarily have to worry about him too much in the pass game as far as being a true threat, only because of all the other pass options there. Scotty Miller, I know he didn't have a great game, but he is there if they wanted to use him. Pretty unproductive this week. You've got the tight ends with Gronk there. All of their other wide receiver weapons that we know with Evans and Godwin when they're healthy. So it's really just Russian roulette when you're talking about anybody within that offense outside of Brady, obviously being the untouchable there.
And
Position wise,
finally with Gronk getting, what was it, his first touchdown this season?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was his first though.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like same thing with Ronald Jones. I don't know if it's just something that's only going to happen this week, or if they're actually getting him involved in the passing game, like with what Brady and Gronk did in New England. For New Orleans' sake.
Jonathan says, yes, that was his first touchdown of the year. And we do want to remind everybody that if you are watching us live here on YouTube or Facebook, please go ahead and drop who your winners and losers of the week have been, as well as throughout the show, interact with us. We want to read off your comments and go back and forth and debate a bit. If there is any disagreements with either myself or the average Josh over here on the opposite side, go ahead and comment there, and we will get to them as we go through this here.
I want people to call me crazy for the things that I say.
Well, you are, and speaking of crazy, your buddy, the guy that you predicted to be the top dog last week, Zeke, 9.5 points with 2 fumbles. But what's going on there? He is my second loser.
You know what? It was Monday night. He went to the movies before the game, saw a good movie, had some popcorn, and I guess he got a little too much extra butter on that popcorn. So hands were a little slippery.
Yeah. Knew I shouldn't have had that popcorn, huh?
Yeah,
We
when
got Jonathan
one
chiming in here saying that his winner's Tom Brady. Yes, having a great week, especially beating who is seemed to have been the second when you're talking about overall quarterbacks over the period of time. If you're looking at the NFL, you've got the Mannings, Breeze, Brady. The next one in that conversation, a lot of people believe, as far as strong arm quarterbacks and leading over their tenure, has been Rodgers. Only their fourth time playing each other, and Brady coming away with another win, showing his dominance. And then he has his loser as Josh Allen. Yes, unfortunately, Josh Allen not playing as well as his first few weeks. I don't know if that's the just the time frame catching up to him, if people are realizing how his place, his skill set is, as you saw towards the end of that game when Kansas City literally just stood on the goal line and said, "You're not throwing it behind us. I'll give you anything underneath that you want. Go ahead and catch it, but you cannot beat us with the deep ball," which I believe he is one of the most accurate quarterbacks so far this year, over 20 yards. So definitely something that teams are going to start to do more of. So um, as you watch the season goes on, I'll be interested to see if he makes a bounce back here.
Yeah, there's a bunch of teams where they're good with the deep ball, but like once they reach the red zone, it's just a no go for them.
Now, Jonathan says Allen and Buffalo, as they are, is a 9-7 team. But my question to you, Jonathan, is: do you think 9-7, with the poor performance of that AFC East, does that win a division? Especially with Miami switching over to Tua and Cam not playing well this year. And then Brian
Started off
says
good.
9-7 makes the playoffs. Well, he's
I
also missed a week.
I feel like
He
it
had
also
no
depends
practices this
on
week.
it all depends on how Tua plays. I mean, if Tua plays well and up to being worth where he got picked at, then maybe Miami takes the division. Buffalo goes 9-7 and sneak in with a wild card spot.
Be tough to do. My final winner here this week was that running back that we had mentioned out of Kansas City, who put on a show against Buffalo, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, putting up 23.9 points. And the big thing for me here is he didn't put up the most points at running back, but he did have a prove it week, right? He did have over
Mhm.
almost, I believe it was over 100 by the first half, and having such dominance, I think it was a prove it to Le'Veon, right? You're bringing in another big quarterback, another running back rather, somebody who pretty much matches what you do, and then you just prove that I don't really need that guy here. You're making your statement as, hey, I'm the number one guy, although years of experience within the league may dictate otherwise. Throughout the history, usually when a guy like that comes in, he demands the respect of at least some carries off the first. But if you guys haven't gone back or haven't heard yet, I would go back and listen to the Empty Wagon guys. I believe they broke it down to what they believe as being a 60-40 split between um, Edwards Hilaire and Le'Veon Bell, where they believe it's going to fall. The heavier of the load ending with Hilaire. So um, that's my thoughts on it. I don't think Le'Veon's going to have. He'll have a bigger role and a better production than what he had with the Jets, as almost everyone would outside of Jamison Crowder. So
Yeah, I think for Edwards Alaire, if there was to be a prove it kind of week, it was supposed to be this week with them signing
right,
Le'Veon Bell and Le'Veon pretty much having just experience in the league over him. I mean, he didn't do anything with the Jets, so that's pretty much all you can say he has over him. And I'm actually interested to see who they give more of the workload to going into week 7, or if they're
no,
just going to do a Cleveland type of deal and just kind of try and split it between them.
I think the first week is going to be a bad week to judge because you'd never know how much Le'Veon's going to be able to pick up playbook wise and scheme fit wise within the week, especially having not been able to practice because of the COVID protocols that he has to pass before he can enter into a new facility. So I don't know how much time he'll really have within the first team reps. And as Jonathan answers my question there, it will be close as far as it sees. He has Miami, Buffalo, and Patriots all being close, and then obvious to most here as the Jets wrapping up in last place within the division. And
Well, this is the
go
first
ahead.
year that they're doing the 7th seed, right?
Yes, there is now three wild cards per conference,
So it's not
and only the first seed gets a bye.
yeah, it's not completely out of the question that all 3 teams could make it into the playoffs. We've seen it happen before, even when there was only 6 seeds.
I mean, I think that's going to be tough when you look at the teams that are out of the North. You have the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns. That could be your three that go.
Well, yeah, it could
So
be at this point. It could be anyone because we're about
pretty
almost
early, yeah.
yeah, we're still early in the season, almost halfway through, so it's not completely crazy. Like I said, the South have done it recently with I think New Orleans took the division, and Atlanta and Carolina took both the wild card spots.
And who'd you have wrapping up your winners and losers there?
All right, I actually still have a couple I got to go through, so I'm gonna finish off my losers here. I had Michael Gallup, only 4.3 points, 2 receptions, 23 yards, and mainly putting him up there because of the glimpse of the game that I saw right before halftime. They were in the red zone. Andy Dalton throws a wide open pass to him, and he just whiffs it. Even the commentators are saying you got to make a catch like that, being down as much as they were. Not really going to talk about it too much, but going into my last loser, it was Alexander Madison, only 4 points, 26 yards, 1 reception for 4 yards. When you're there's not really much you can say about it. He's backing up Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's out with the injury, and I mean, it's just you got to show up pretty much.
I mean, you're putting it into a position. I know that you're taking over for Cook, who's been a top back in the league thus far this season, but you have to walk into that game and think that it's a prove it game. Whether it's on a more restricted play call or if it's on a lower snap count, you got to make every snap count as if you're trying to take that guy's job, and not only take that guy's job but win the game, especially when people now know that they're going to be backed up a little bit because you're not Dalvin Cook. They're going to try to press your receivers a little bit more and give you that space up front because they're not going to respect you as much as a Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
I mean, being a top 5 back in the league, top 10 back in the league.
That's the biggest time to put up the numbers is when they're
Right.
not expecting it. And yeah, like you said, it was a prove it week. Once Dalvin Cook does come back, do you are you forgotten, or did you earn your spot to get some carries in the game?
Yeah. And speaking of players that should be or have been forgotten, my final loser for the week is Cooper Kupp, one of the many number 2s within that team, only putting up 3.1 points. Nobody really seeming within that team that they want to be the guy every week. So a tough go around here for them. It's believed that he's supposed to be the guy, especially in in the fantasy setting where you're supposed to be the more underneath guy and catch those quicker passes. But again, proving that he should be on your bench outside of matchup oriented weeks.
Yeah, someone who has proven that they belong in your starting lineup and has proven that they are in contention for the division on the West. My final winner, I had Kyler Murray, 34, almost 35 points, 371 yards with 4 touchdowns. Yes, he was going up against Dallas defense, but I mean, it just adds on to his win streak there. I think it said he was 7-0 in Arlington between what was a high school, college, and
Yeah.
pro level.
And we have Axel checking in here saying, "Hola, hello, Alec or Axel, sorry."
Hello. Um,
Was
and
that it for yourself there, bud?
yes, that is wrapping up my winners and losers. And speaking of Kyler Murray, does that mean that we're going over to Top Dog?
No, that does not. I don't
I
know
want
if
to
you've
go to
been on this
Top Dog.
show. I don't know if you've been on this show yet before, bud, but that's usually what we wrap up the show with.
Well, that's just how excited I am to get to it. I love it. I
I don't
love
know
it
if you
because
should
it's a
be excited.
why? Because it's a competition between us.
I, I don't think either one of us is competing, but we'll get to that later in the show.
I'm competing.
Right now, we want to get over to our NFL news brought to you by The Recast, the official music of the FSA.
No, I'd rather do Top Dog. Going into this week's NFL news, we have more starters dropping like flies, kicking it off with Raheem Mostert going down again with, I believe, another ankle sprain. He's been placed on the IR. Mark Ingram drops with an ankle sprain as well. They're going into the bye week this week, but it has been said that he could still play week 8 after their bye week. Miles Sanders is out Thursday night with a knee injury, but no timetable for a return after that. Zach Ertz goes down he tweaked his ankle. I actually saw the play, cut out a little too hard. He's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks now. And wrapping it up, keeping the Eagles theme here, Deshaun Jackson, for the few that actually have him on their team, he should be returning this week.
Might be a good player to go pick up with our buys this week.
Yes.
Trying to fill some holes with the Indianapolis, Miami, Minnesota, and Baltimore, as you see across the bottom there, all out on buys this week with pretty big quarterback and receiver pairs within those teams. So, but that moves it right on to our next topic as we try to fill those bye week holes and pick up a couple guys off the bench here or off the waivers rather. Who do you have as your first odd man out? Who are you going to be sitting and starting this week? And as we go through this, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, please drop your comments in the sections, either whether that be on Facebook or YouTube. Tell us who you would start or sit, or if you want our opinion on anybody that you're debating over for the upcoming week, we will give you our 2 cents. I will warn you, it is average at best. Josh, who you got?
All right. I'm going to say, starting it off, to sit Jimmy G or Nick Mullins, whichever one of them is starting. I don't really know what their QB situation looks there. But New England's defense is partly what keeps them in the game. I believe
It's not partly. It's 100%.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, Cam was doing his thing, picking up where he left off in Carolina before he got injured. But I say that New England easily has a top 10, maybe even top 5 pass defense. So I would sit Jimmy G or Nick Mullins, and on the other end, I'm going to say start Teddy Bridgewater. I have the pride as a New Orleans fan to say that New Orleans' secondary, not like New England's defense, but New Orleans' secondary is what kills our chances of winning. We all know it's pretty much just because Drew Brees knows how to run an offense. I'm going to say start Teddy Bridgewater.
I am going to go out and say this week to actually sit Wentz once again. As we go ahead and look into this week, I know that they're playing the Giants, who have not fared too well, but he himself had looked banged up. He is without his running back, Miles Sanders, who looks to act as if his safety valve and gets you those cheap passing yards out of the backfield. He is still without Dallas Goddard, now without Zach Ertz being his primary target. I know he gets Deshaun Jackson back, but because of that offensive line and that poor performance, I don't believe that where Jackson would play a role at is ever going to actually come into play. The deep ball, I don't know if he's ever going to have enough time to get it there. So I'm going to sit Wentz. And in his place, I'm going to go on the opposite side of that same game and say to start Danny Dimes. The Eagles have not looked good overall. Actually, everybody that the Eagles have actually gotten rid of this season on the defensive side of the ball is currently ranked higher than the players that they have been replaced with outside of Darius Slay. So Danny Dimes in, Wentz on the pine.
I'm as crazy as a pick that is starting Danny Dimes. I'm gonna agree with you on sitting Wentz, and I will say this for the rest of this season to every Eagles fan out there: Carson Wentz is not the solution. I'm sorry, but ever since he got injured first and he basically handed them the playoff run, which Nick Foles finished that off. He just hasn't been the option in my eyes.
I think it's less of a Wentz issue and more of a play call, offensive personnel issue, which Doug Peterson has taken the role of, and they've made a lot of poor choices as that's concerned, and then taken his confidence away in the same breath. So less on him, more on the coaches. But yes, I do agree. He's had poor, I believe he has 12 turnovers. Um, so it's not been looking good for him.
No, and honestly, with a decent prospect in uh who is it that they drafted? Is it Hurts?
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Jalen Hurts slowly creeping his way into the rotation, getting some snap counts as the weeks go by. I think it should start to light a fire under him. I mean, Nick Foles was a decent backup and a so-so kind of starter, but he doesn't know how Jalen Hurts plays. Jalen Hurts could come out and completely swipe the starting spot from him.
And they've already started to use him a little bit more,
Yeah,
especially out of the wildcat type play stuff. So, but who do you have as your second sit of the week?
my second sit is going to be the man that Jimmy G or Nick Mullins is going to be or is supposed to be throwing to. It's going to be Brandon Ayuk, if I can say that name right.
That is
Uh,
correct.
okay, sweet. So pretty much just like I said, with New England having a top 10, maybe top 5 secondary, I think that they're going to make it hard for them to get them the ball. Also being as 49ers try to be a passing team, but I just think that they're more of a running team to me, and I think they're even going to make it hard for them to get the ball to their number one, the obvious number one option in George Kittle.
Right.
And on the other side of it, I'm going to say to start Chase Claypool. The past 2 weeks, I really like what he's been doing with the two receivers in front of him not 100%, and he's getting most of the workload thrown at him from Roethlisberger, and he's really making the most of it when he does get it.
I mean, yeah, he had a lesser performance this week coming off that monster game a few weeks back, but he is the guy there. And if you're not starting him by now, he should definitely get a look every week. Matchup dependent. I know that Tennessee's got a tougher defense, but I believe in a close game, you're going to have all of your offensive tooling there available to throw out. Both run and pass games alike. So Claypool should be there and should be the biggest target or asset within this week's game plan for them. So I agree with you there.
Who do you have as your second start and sit?
For me, my sit of the week is going to be Kenyon Drake. has a unfavorable matchup coming off of a um, an okay week this week, but he has had his ups and downs as they've played along. Um, as Murray starts to feel more comfortable with his legs as the weeks goes on, and developing with all of his receivers. Christian Kirk had an 80-yard bomb. I believe against a Seattle defense, I don't think Drake will do as well or put up big numbers. And on the opposite side of things, I'm going to say to start Le'Veon Bell. So I know that we said earlier could be a pretty big split as far as the time share goes, but I believe after seeing what Edwards Hilaire has done and him playing either A for a contract or B a money grab elsewhere after the season is over on a new team, I think that he's got to come out the gate and try to show why they brought him in within that offense. And playing Denver, who has an okay run defense. I mean, I believe they are up there, but they are definitely suspect to a fast paced offense, which Seattle does have and can stretch them out. So, regardless of which running back you start there, it is going to be a productive week, I believe, for him. So my start is Le'Veon Bell.
I completely agree with you on everything except for the fact that you said Seattle going against Denver when I guess you meant to say Kansas City. But
I
yeah,
meant Seattle against Arizona
okay. I know you're
for
talking about
Kenyon Drake.
I know you're talking about Le'Veon Bell. I didn't know you switched back to Kenyon Drake, but I do agree with you. Uh, Le'Veon Bell, it could be hit or miss, but I think that if he was going to have pretty much what Edwards Alaire just had this past week, a prove it kind of week, it's going to be this week to prove that he deserves to have that contract.
Right. And who do you have as your pickup of the week to fill these holes that we have throughout the bye weeks and injuries alike?
Yes. So with a bunch of injuries as far as the running back position goes, and with teams going on the bye week with some strong running back options, I'm going to say to add Boston Scott. You know, Carson Wentz, I feel like doesn't trust himself 100% to throw the ball, and they're still trying to find some type of running game. And with Miles Sanders missing Thursday night's game, I think it's clear that Boston Scott is going to get the main workload as far as the Eagles' backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I agree as he's an option. He wouldn't be my biggest look to add this week, as I think it's going to be a lower scoring game and it's going to be tough grinded out. I mean, he is a red zone target for them as far as getting those goal line rushes. So he will get you the touchdown points, not necessarily the carries or yards in there. Um, Although it is possible against a suspect Giants defense. But as I mentioned earlier, we are sitting Wentz regardless, so the faith is not in the pass game. So not a bad pickup for me. It's going to be all day. Adrian Peterson has been putting together a quiet year as far as stats and production goes. He has been a definitely a matchup oriented pick. Week in and week out, and with bigger names out on bye, and being under owned for that matter, I would say go out and pick up Adrian Peterson this week.
I completely forgot that he was still in the league. But I mean, Atlanta. I'm gonna be honest with you. He's getting up there in age. I mean, I know he got signed by Detroit, but I knew that as far as their running game went, I thought they were going mainly with Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift. Because yeah, DeAndre
Well,
Swift last
Swift
week having 116 yards.
Well, Swift has cemented himself as the number one there, but Adrian Peterson hasn't been the number one on in a while. You got to remember when he played um, with the Redskins, he still had productive weeks, especially matchup oriented. So when you have to put in a change of pace back, or you're looking for those short down plays, it really has been Peterson to make those quick cuts still to get the production. I mean, your three down back sure, it's still going to be Swift. Carry has been battling injuries all season, whether he's been listed or not. His production has not been there. I should know. I've had him all too long within the realm of the season. I should have moved on already, but not that many options outside of your top tier guys this year. So
He's slowly starting to cross over into Fitzmagic territory, Kevin,
I
becoming
mean,
the journeyman.
I wouldn't go that far.
What is as far as Adrian Peterson? What was it? So he had the big run with the Vikings. Then it was the Saints. Then it was the Cardinals. Then it was the Redskins, and then it was Detroit. I don't know if I'm missing any other teams as
Yeah,
of right
but
now.
I don't. When I think journeyman, I think trying to fight for a position. I mean, you have to think that he has had a pretty long career, and in each one of those, he's played his role. Once as you go throughout the progression, through the number ones, either going out for money or coming through and being now at the latter part of his career and being that vet in the backfield. I mean, I wouldn't call that a journeyman as far more of as a role player. To me, a journeyman is somebody that can't find a role on one team, so has to go find somebody, and fill a role that becomes evident either through injury or through just poor performance, such as Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, nobody just goes out and picks him up because they think that there's going to be talent there. They're just okay with being okay at that position.
That's what I do. Ryan
I mean,
Fitzpatrick, he's a legend in my book.
speaking of legends, that brings us to Josh's favorite section of our show, the Top Dog, brought to you by Nature Coast Tailgating, our uh, World Championship Bowl sponsor. As we get into the Top Dogs, remember this is the part where me and Josh alike try to predict who we believe is going to be the highest scorer of that week. We're going to pick a quarterback apiece and then a flex position apiece. Flex being anything outside of the quarterback, your running back, tight ends, and receivers. And then what we do is we're going to keep track of the score here. So if my player outperforms Josh, I get 1 point. If I do predict the top scorer within that section, I get a bonus point, and it's worth 2. So far, neither one of us have hit on the top dog. We have been very, very close though. With myself, Josh, not so much. Right now, we are sitting tied for a piece. Last week, we saw Deshaun Watson being the highest scoring quarterback at 38.5 points, and then Derrick Henry being the highest scorer overall with 43.4 points. Josh, just to remind everybody out there, had taken Kyler Murray, who had 34.92 points, good for the third best overall at quarterback. I had Ryan Fitzmagic, who got benched, still putting up 20 points or 20.5 points. And then Josh, your flex was?
Oh wait,
If you forgot, it was Zeke, but
no.
Zeke with
No.
almost as many fumbles as points.
Didn't you remember I texted you like after the show and I said that I changed it to Derrick Henry?
I don't think. No, I didn't get that.
I could have swore I changed it to Derrick Henry.
Must have been caught in my spam.
Unfortunately, I took Zeke.
Who
Only
had
9.5 points with 2 dropped balls.
And I had AJ Brown, who put up a fairly average for him, I would say, or throughout the flex position this year at 22.1 points. That causing our split there for a piece as we go through here. Top dog, oh fun, live watching them bicker. I mean, debate, pretty much.
Just meant to say love.
Oh,
there we go. Who do you have for your top dogs this week?
For me, I am going to go out on a limb here, as I often do like to see myself subject to heartbreak. I, again, am going to try to put my game in the arms of one Josh Allen. Hopefully, he can come back with a more favorable matchup this week than the past two and get back into good graces with everybody within FSA. I know our my co-host for tomorrow, Brian, is still on the sit him in everything possible train, as I'm sure we will see here in a second. But me, not so much. I give him a little bit of grace and leeway. There it is. Josh Allen is dead to me, he says, and will not touch him from here on out. I think
Well,
he's going to be your top dog.
with him going 0-2 the last 2 weeks, going up against the Jets this week, I think if he is going to have a bounce back game and possibly even a top dog kind of game, it's going to be this
Ooh,
week. He said
Brian is starting him this week.
he said
I would rather you not.
the
If
three
you don't
dots
start him, that may be better off for me.
the 3 dots at the end. I can just feel
Yeah.
the fact that he doesn't want to do it. Each dot just adds on to it.
I'm sure he had a chat with himself. I'm sure he went out and looked at trades. He was on the waiver wire. He's like, I don't want to, but I've got to.
Just trying to do whatever he could to get rid of him.
Who do you have as your quarterback this week?
So surprisingly, neither of us have tried taking last year or the previous year before MVP. So I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to go with the 2018 MVP.
Yep.
I'm going to go.
I don't
Go
need to
go.
look where I'm. Patrick, I don't need to look at where I'm throwing Mahomes.
Patrick, I don't even know. I don't have good nicknames for him.
It should be Patrick. I now have 2 running backs, so I don't need to throw Mahomes.
Patty, Kermit the Frog, Mahomes.
Bad week to take him, bud, don't you think?
What are you talking about? They're going up against Denver. All right.
Right. But they have now 2 running backs. You think he's going to outperform both of them and neither one of them is going to perform?
Yeah.
Unless you're taking both, unless it's going to be
it's just
50
lowered.
point.
I just lowered my seat. Well, Le'Veon Bell literally just got signed. So I think it's going to be the same thing as what happened with Devontae Freeman. I thought he was going to do good, but it took him like 2 weeks to get started.
So you're saying you're biased?
What did you just say?
I said you're biased against running backs on new teams.
No. I think running backs can take off with a running start.
So then Mahomes isn't going to be the highest score this week.
Hey, I'm scraping at the bottom of the barrel here. I'm just going for that 1 point. I didn't say I was going for top dog here. I mean, could come out of nowhere and, put up 40 points. He's done it before.
Shame. Who do you have as your flex?
I have Aaron Jones. I don't really know. I'm hoping that, same thing as you're hoping for with Josh Allen here. I'm hoping that this week he bounces back going up against Houston. I know Houston doesn't have the strongest defense out there.
I mean, that's definitely not a bad pick. If you look at teams overall as a whole, all of Green Bay did not play well last week. So I don't really put that on him. Especially when you start to go down, you run a whole lot less. You need a lot of quick points, so the ball's in the air more. That loss is more on Rodgers than anybody if you're going to pick a singular player. So not a bad pick. The best, obviously, because
I also put it on the fact that I just think Tampa Bay has a good running defense.
That too. For me, I am.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
We can't both say go ahead.
I want to hear this sorry excuse of a pick.
The only thing that's a sorry excuse is your Saints, which is why I pick Robbie Anderson to burn them and be my flex.
Hey, if you're if you're gonna say sorry excuse and talk about my team, at least talk about the only portion of the team you can talk about. You could say sorry excuse of a secondary, but you leave Breeze out of it.
I will do no such thing.
You leave Breeze out of this.
I think Robbie Anderson is putting together a solid season, especially coming in with a new quarterback this year in Bridgewater. And he is definitely being the beneficiary of Chris McCaffrey being out, having one less option within the pass game. Um, Davis being a decent fill in at running back, but obviously not being as big of a piece offensively overall as CMC is, which means that the deep ball is what they're targeting, or that 15 to 20 range with Robbie Anderson. I think
So
that opens up a lot more this week.
my question is, what happened to DJ Moore? Is he still like involved in that passing game as much as him?
I mean, he's not involved as much. DJ Moore has not been the big play guy. They've been doing a lot of stuff behind the line. With the quick footwork with um, Bridgewater, which opens up more time for your receivers to get downfield, which means Robbie Anderson gets open more. So, I mean, he is a true number one. I believe that he was a big number one when he was with the Jets, but obviously the Jets can't, put anything together as a whole goes, and they would much rather get rid of their good pieces and just collect draft capital to try to find players that mesh well together. But
Yeah,
to me,
he actually really surprised me going to Carolina because I saw what he did at for the Jets. He didn't really do much, but just to see what he does, what he's doing with Carolina, it just goes to show how, I guess, poorly you could say the Jets were using him.
I mean, who was the? I believe that the Jets had a defensive player that they traded. I believe it was defensive that they traded to the Buccaneers this week. And said player, as soon as he got the call that he was at the stadium, they said, "Hey, bud, we're trading you to the Buccaneers." He got in his car and drove. Didn't wait for a plane. Didn't try to grab a bus or have the team put anything in place. He just hopped in his car and went. He said, "Sorry, I'm out of here. I'm not staying much longer." So.
They'll get there eventually. They'll they'll sneak in with the wild card spot sooner or
I
later.
mean, they won't be doing much of anything as long as Adam Gase is on that team. He is their kryptonite and downfall for the remainder of the year. And there it is. Jets do suck. Yes,
I'm trying to be on Brian's side here.
that's from him.
I know
Brian
it's from
says the
him.
Jets suck.
I'm trying to, you know, put the salt on the wound real lightly.
I mean, for everyone that doesn't know, Brian actually tried to abandon his team and tried to have faith in the Bills. He was going to stick within the state and just move a little bit north, and prayed if Josh Allen pulled out a win for him that he might happen to switch over and join the mafia up there north. But as you saw earlier, his hatred for Josh Allen comes because of that, hence him stuck in Adam Gase's world. So there you go. The Titans are taking applications for new fans. I guess he missed the Tampa Bay open enrollment. He couldn't go down there.
No, Kevin, you were the last. You were last spot. You took the last spot.
Unless Bill Belichick is gone, I would never leave.
Oh, so it's
we kept
Belichick.
going.
It's Belichick that keeps you there.
I mean, he's the brains of the operation.
Yeah, but Brady had to carry it out.
The last time that the Browns started 4-1, you know who their coach was?
Let me guess.
Belichick.
There it is. Are they 4-1 right now?
I believe they were. Last time I checked.
Yes, they were. They were 4-1, but then lost to the Steelers.
I didn't think I was making the stat up. I possibly could have, but
no. That's what I do. That's my job. Now, could you see the Browns taking the division?
I think it's going to be tough to win it from the Steelers at this point. I mean, the Steelers, even if they start to slide, I don't think they will slide enough for the Browns to take over. And you never know with Lamar in there as well. They start to figure things out and stop their skid. Especially with this bounce back win this past week. So I don't think so,
Yeah, I think
as that's concerned.
there are a bunch of divisions out there that are, stacking up to be some tough divisions. You got the AFC North, and I'm mainly talking about teams with like three teams in there fighting for the start. So there's AFC North, NFC South, of course, NFC West. But besides that, it's pretty much just between two teams. And then you have everybody's favorite NFC East.
Yeah,
That
I
is
think
just
they might just. I think the league might just abandon them and just move them up to the CFL, the Canadian Football League. Just
they're
walk
gonna
away slowly.
they're gonna send
Yes,
they're
the NFC least.
NFC least. They're gonna send them to the Canadian League. They're gonna give them participation trophies and have a nice day.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Well, that wraps it up here for us in the formal portion of the show. You got anything else there that you want to mention, Josh?
I know it's a quick question that I wanted to ask and ask all of the viewers watching right now. Do you think Derrick Henry is in the running for MVP spot?
No, it's a quarterback league. He would have to break the rushing record in order to be considered. I think. Um, I think. I think it's closer than people think as far as being there. I mean, considered maybe, but I think this is Russell's year. I think Wilson gets it.
So Russell Wilson isn't even in top 5 for passing yards. Yes, they're still undefeated right now. So are the Titans, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so are the Titans. They're both undefeated right now. They're putting up
I mean,
numbers like crazy.
he did literally turn a man into a helicopter, so there is a chance.
I think,
But
yeah.
it is a quarterback's league, and the MVP has typically been a quarterback's award.
This is going to be a question for the stat guy here. When was the last time a running back won MVP?
While we wait on that, I do want to remind you guys to check out our regularly scheduled Average Bro show, which will air next on the 27th of October at 8 p.m. as always, both on Facebook and on YouTube as we go live here at 8 o'clock. And then check out our flagship program tomorrow, the Phonetically Real broadcast at 8:30 p.m., also on Facebook and YouTube. And then after that, we have the Empty Wagon podcast live on Saturday, midnight the 24th. And if you can't stay up that late to catch them at midnight, they are still downloadable on Anchor. Check them out as they, I believe this is now their third week with us as they enter into the fam, all on the same base,
I couldn't even tell you.
going into the third week,
second week.
second week. Okay.
Yes.
It's been a long week, and feel like they've been here this whole time anyway. So, second week here with us, and then after that, catch us on our happy hour via Zoom Sunday the 25th at 8:15, just before the kickoff of the Sunday night game, and then catch your recap of the week with the Empty Wagon guys again on Monday at midnight. And as always, if you do miss those times, check out our new website, fsa-fr.com. They'll all be listed there on the bottom of the page. That way you can't forget. As well as check out the carousel on the top. I believe it will be there as well with links to check us out.
And Brian comes back and says, last time a running back won MVP was back in 2012, which was Adrian Peterson. So that's 8 years ago. And then before that, 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson. Yeah. So I could see it happening. If he continues to put up the numbers that he's been putting up, if he continues to fold guys like lawn chairs, I could definitely see it happening.
Well, that wraps it up here for us. I do want to thank you guys for watching the Average Bros Fantasy Show, sponsored by Football Darts and Fantasy Sports Alliance. As I just mentioned before, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe to the show and follow us on all of our social media outlets. Um, Before we go, I want to thank all of our sponsors. Sponsored by the QB54, the Arm and Leg League sponsor, Football Darts, our broadcast sponsor, Nature Coast Tailgating, our World Championship sponsor, and then all of our bowl sponsor, Finger Lake Mercantile, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, Southern Siren Sugar Scrub, Deep South Creations, and of course, the Recast, who are the official music of FSA. Josh, thanks again for being average, and I will catch everybody next week.
See you guys later.